I'm Keith Burton. I'm glad to join you as we now move into the awards ceremony. When we saw that video on Betsy earlier, you noted that it said pioneer, leader, and advocate. And if you look inside of your program tonight, you'll note that this past spring as a board, as we went through and looked at our mission, vision, and values, that under the what we believe category, we noted that in her advocacy and ours, the professional ideals that we have stated are truth, integrity, courage, caring, imagination, judgment, and leadership. Wonderful qualities. And those qualities, by the way, are really reflected in the award that our board developed more than 5 years ago for this dinner, the Milestones in Mentoring, known as the Compass Award. You see the compass on the cover of your program. You see it here as I hold it up. It's a beautiful award for all of those that we will honor tonight. And not only did Betsy Plank believe in these ideals, I know that the men and women that we will honor tonight believe in these ideals. It is a part of their life and mentoring. The categories that we will honor tonight include legacy, agency, young professional, the Bruce K. Berger Educator, our corporate award, as we've mentioned, and our executive award. And those will be handled as we go forward, and we'll move through each presentation with, again, a presenter. And I am really honored tonight to welcome our first presenter, and I want to ask you to join with me in recognizing him, because he too, throughout his career, has really lived and believed in these ideals. Please join me in welcoming Harold Burson.
Thank you very much for your welcoming me here. I'm very happy to be in Chicago. I'm very happy to be anywhere at my age. and I'm even more happy when I know where I'm at. We're here tonight to really celebrate the work that Betsy Plank has done in the area of mentoring. And really what it is an assurance of the supply of future leaders to fill the ever-complex problems and bountiful opportunities that will engage our future clients and employers. I think most of us recognize that public relations savants are made. They're not born. So we are here to honor those individuals in our collective midst who have given their lives and their time and their efforts to share their unique experiences to develop the quality talent that matches up with the tomorrow's demands in the public relations field. Which brings me to why I think why I'm here, and that is to present to my colleague and friend of 25 years or so, Pat Ford, this award. Pat is one of the people that I have worked with and who has been in our organization, and there have been about 35,000 of them, I think, altogether. So most of them are here tonight. Pat is sort of the ideal, has the ideal profile for this kind of a job. He started out on a newspaper. He went to work for a leading policy institute in Washington, American Enterprise Institute. He has been with Burson-Marsteller now for a quarter of a century. And he, I suspect, throughout that period, if we ever had a popularity contest of who you wanted to work for, Pat Ford would have won hands down throughout his career. He's been a great friend. He's been a great comfort to me in many occasions. We first met, if you can believe it, in Tokyo. And Pat was with American Enterprise Institute then. We had just gotten the Korean Olympic Games for 1988, and I was traveling through Asia with Philip Habib, who was one of our great diplomats. He was Under Secretary of State. Phil introduced me to Pat. I was in 1984. About 5 years later, our Washington manager had the good sense to hire Pat, and the rest in our company is sort of history, where Pat is a real legend. And I'm very happy that I'm here to see him get his due as in the way of an honor such as Betsy Pike has established. I think Betsy and Pat probably are cut out of the same mold. They were really go-to people. They were get done people, and I'm just so really overwhelmed that he's been recognized that in the way he has been. So congratulations, Pat, and good wishes to you.
Little adjustment needed here. So, I'm not sure how I follow that, but thank you, Harold. I don't usually use notes, but my boss, Don Baer, is here, and I don't want to screw up. Just kidding, Don. Those were much too kind comments, Harold, but thank you. I liked them. Reminded me of, I used to work for a political figure who would get introduced like that, and he would say, I want to just start with a prayer. Dear Lord, please forgive Harold for those exaggerations and lies about me. And even more, God, please forgive me for liking it so much. But I also, Harold, want to thank you for all the lessons I've learned from you, and not only about how to be a better PR professional, but how to be a better person. And I think the character and the values that you bring to our business have inspired so many of us in countless ways, but also set a standard in our profession that just is uplifting every time I see you in a crowd like this, because I think so many people recognize that and appreciate it. And it's not just because you're a great PR guy. It's because of what you stand for and the values that you've really handed down to all of us for so many years. So to the extent that I've been in any way helpful to people as a mentor, I really think a big part of that is the inspiration that I've received from Harold. And the fact that you came here tonight to do this, it really beyond words, and I'm grateful, and I'll treasure this night for the rest of my life. I'd also like to thank the Planck Center and everybody here, including Don, for this honor. I'm especially gratified to stand alongside the other recipients tonight, which is really an extraordinary group. We spent the afternoon together, but also I've been longtime friends with Andy Polansky and Wendi Strong, among others. And so it's really especially an honor to be in that group, and so that was touched by that too. And so, you know, when I got the call from Bill Heyman a little while back, I was incredibly moved and surprised, but again, I liked it. But I have to confess that after I hung up the phone with him, my first reaction was, I'm too young to get an award that's for legacy. It's, you know, I know I've been at Burson for 25 years, but I haven't given up the idea that I've got 25 more in me. But I like it, and so I appreciate that. As I told Harold when he sent me he sent me a wonderful note when I hit 25 years at Burson, and I called him up from Hong Kong, and of course he answered his phone, and I said, you know, Harold, it occurred to me, if I stay another 25 years, I'll still be 6 years younger than you. And he said, well, I hope you do, Pat, and I have to tell you, those next 25 are going to go much faster. So I appreciate that advice, Harold, as well. My other reaction, as I recall, was, really? They're giving me an award for this? Like, this is sort of like you're giving me an award for shaving every day or brushing my teeth. You know, this is what we do. We teach, we learn, we do. That's what our whole life cycle is about in this business. So thank you, and I really appreciate it, but I was sort of like thinking, this is, on the one hand, really special because of Betsy and because of the great board here at the Planck Center, that they're celebrating this notion and making sure we all understand the importance of not only handing down what we've learned, but learning from that next generation. To me, I have gained much more from the mentoring relationships I've had than I've given. Much more. And I learn, I have two reverse mentoring relationships now, one with our digital leader in India, Yu Din, and one with our digital leader in Beijing. And what I learned from them is so much more valuable than what I'm teaching them. And not only about digital and social and the whole ecosystem in the social media world in China, but also Yu is from Myanmar, which we're all looking at right now, but also just how they as young professionals in Asia are learning our business. And it's something we all have to keep doing, and as we develop, be able to have those mentoring relationships that are both ways. And so for me, I've been blessed over these years, not only when I was a reporter with some great editors, in my first PR job, the guy who the main principal in our firm was this wonderful guy from Nebraska who, you know, just spent endless hours not only teaching me about PR, but teaching me about Washington, and again, teaching me about life, teaching me about how to be graceful and generous and kind. And I think also fondly about one such relationship for me at Burson, which started actually in my first week on the job at Burson. When I came into my office, I think the second day or third day I was in my office, and I had this wonderful, gracious, handwritten note from a guy I didn't know who was in our Chicago office, and he wanted to welcome me to Burson-Marsteller. He wanted to tell me about how glad he was I was there, which I was really touched by, and how he's looking forward to working with me. And when I started asking around, I found out this guy is like sort of a legend in Burson-Marsteller and kind of a big deal in the Chicago business community. So I did what we all should do, all the students here. I picked up the phone and I called him. And I said, thank you for the note, and I tried to start a conversation about our business. And that started a dialogue on, I'm going to say, June 11th, 1989, that continues to this day, and I have learned so much from John Lesage, who's sitting right here next to Harold. And so thank you, John. And I have many other mentors in this group and in this city, but I think the key point I wanted to make was that throughout these relationships, it's so important that whether we think of ourselves as the teacher or the student, the mentor or the mentee, that we're constantly asking and constantly probing and constantly learning. And I value every one of those relationships I've had there, and I appreciate that somebody has felt it was worth this award. Because I feel like all that joy and fulfillment I've had, and maybe some of you others who've received these awards, I'm looking at Ann now, you know, you already got all these rewards from those relationships, and now this great organization founded by and named after, inspired by one of the legends and giants in our business, wants to give me an award for it. So thank you, Planck Center. Thank you, Planck Center Board. But wow, I would have done it for nothing, and I still would do it for nothing. And so, if I may, I'd like just a little bit of indulgence to thank one more of my most special mentor, which is my wife, PJ, who's sitting here. PJ's taught me so much about what's important in life. She's a nurse. Does infinitely more important things than I've ever done. She was a flight nurse for many years in the Air Force, and she's wonderful at, having dealt with war wounds and many other serious illnesses, and having been such an incredible caregiver for so many people in our families and our friends. She has a wonderful way of keeping one grounded. And when I come home and I start fretting about this or that crisis, and she says, "You think that's a crisis? Try standing over a young soldier with a gaping chest wound and see how much your crisis here stacks up." And it's important every now and then that we remember those things. We all deal with different challenges every day in life, but there are some people, PJ for many years, but many people right now dealing with some challenges and crises that are much more significant than we deal with. But in any case, it's been wonderful to learn from you and to be with you and to feel like I'm there at the front lines all the time. So thank you again to the mentors and mentees from whom I've gained so much, and thank you to the Planck Center. I would say that I hope that in some way I can help everybody, that all the students that we met with earlier today and they're here tonight, to have even a fraction of the fulfillment and the joy and the gratification that I've had in this business. So I look forward to doing that and with all of you, and thanks to all of you for this award.
Sarah Gavin's going to join us for our next honoree, Andy Polansky.
So Andy, it's memorable to introduce you. It may be more memorable to follow Harold Burson, so I'll just put that out there right away. I'm Sarah Gavin, and I'm president of Weber Shandwick North America, and probably more salient to tonight, I've had the privilege of working with Andy, our next honoree, for about 15 years. And if you've had a chance to read the bio in the program, you'll know that Andy is a great leader in our business. He's a champion for our profession. He leads, he mentors, he does a lot of terrific things for us and for our company and for our clients. He runs a great business. His acumen is remarkable. He has enormous integrity. In our office, what would Andy do is not a slogan and it's not a bracelet, it's a compass. He's laser focused on our clients and on our talent, and his command of our discipline is impressive every single day. He's got a great enthusiasm for innovation, and he's got the ability to inspire. But that's leads. And I think being a mentor is subtly different than that. It may be, and it is about all those things, of course, but it's also about pushing and guiding and believing in, which I think is a huge part of it. And showing by doing. It's not about the ego of the mentor. And I think that's why Andy is such a great mentor, because it's not about ego. It's about putting other people front and center. It's about other people coming center stage. And it's about helping someone learn to be not only a better professional, but a better person. So I want to focus for just 1 minute on what makes Andy one of the best mentors I've ever had, and that's saying a lot. I have great parents. I have a wonderful family. I have great colleagues over here who are amazing mentors in many ways every single day. Kathy, Rana, the entire table over here. But Andy mentors primarily by modeling what matters. He hardly ever uses voiceover when he mentors. And so I thought I would just share with you 5 of the touchstones that I call the Andy touchstones. There are more, but these are the ones that I turn to most often. So the first touchstone, listen. Listen hard and well, ask focused questions, have an ear for the undertone, And even when Andy and I don't ultimately agree on something, it's really clear to me that he solicits opinions, he takes them on board, and he grounds them in his decision-making. Second touchstone, weigh with integrity. Consider decisions against a range of vectors, not just emotion or impulse. Is it right for the client? Is it right for our colleagues? Is it right for our firm? Is it right for the industry? Is it right for the community? And oh, by the way, simply, is it right? Full stop. Because how else do you have the courage and conviction to make sometimes hard decisions without taking in those vectors and really, really thinking about them? The next touchstone, and this is an art for Andy, is connect with people. One of my most vivid early memories of Andy was when he first came to visit the office that I ran at that time. So we, of course, were all spit and polish, right? The big boss is coming, it's the first visit. You know, we went through the whole checklist, send out a memo to staff, check, tight agenda for the day, check, lots of presentations, probably too many, too long, to show him our goodness, and so on and so forth. And then Andy took off on his own, which was very much not part of the checklist, right? He walked the halls. He visited virtually every single person in our office. He talked to them one-on-one. He asked about their work. He asked about their lives. He asked about their experience at our company. He asked them what our clients were asking them. And he learned more about the goodness of that operation than any PowerPoint could tell you by that. And I knew that that was genuine. I could sense that. But over the years, I've come to know that there's nothing posing about that when Andy does it. It's incredibly genuine. It's the actions of a person who's innately kind, who's very other-directed, who draws his own energy from the work that we do and our people's pride in it, and who knows that at the end of the day, ours is a business of talent and people and judgment and skill. And he lets his colleagues know that they're important and it's magnetic. Second to the last touchstone, collaborate for clients and for each other. Collegiality is good, but not good enough for Andy. He's a champion for that alchemy that comes when you bring the right people together with different kinds of skills and different kinds of wisdom, and they respect each other. He expects us to have each other's back. He expects us to share credit. He expects us to celebrate the achievements of the whole, and he expects us to push each other to be better. And the last the last touchstone that I'll talk about is don't put on airs. Except for his vision for our firm, which is fiercely competitive and ambitious in many ways, and which is very provocative and very inventive. Andy's a humble guy, far more, it belies the kind of fan base that he has, I think. And I'm thinking that right now he's pretty much wanting me to stop this introduction, speaking of humility, so I will. But I'll close with personal thanks, Andy. Last year Gallup did a poll, and they polled Americans about who likes their work. And I'm among that modest percentage that loves their work. And it's in large part, Andy, due to you. Huge handprint on that. And this is a well-deserved recognition. Congratulations.
Thanks, Sarah. That was terrific, and I really appreciate the kind words. We've had quite a week together, just back from Miami, where we picked up the Holmes Global Agency of the Year. That was another dinner. We've had a lot of dinners, I think, this week, for sure. But tonight, to be honored this way is at this prestigious event really means a lot to me. Pat, if it makes you feel any better, Al Golan suggested I'm also too young for this award. So, you know, that was reassuring, I guess. But as I've come to understand Betsy Plank's legacy, and the compelling video just punctuated that point that we saw earlier tonight, the way she was such an inspiration to so many people, students, clients, academics, educators, all throughout her career. And that's something all of us can certainly aspire to. And as I'll share Pat's line, I mean, just really humbled to be honored on the same stage as colleagues tonight that I have a lot of respect and admiration for. I was teasing Pat earlier today, though. I am not one of the 35,000 people that work for Burson-Marsteller. In 1987, I interviewed at Burson-Marsteller, and for the students out there who may, I doubt it, based on the quality of students I met today, might not land that first job, press on. Because I found a considerable degree of motivation in all that. So I thought, I mean, just because I didn't call back for 2 weeks, I was on my honeymoon, okay? So, but I'll tell you, this honor really prompted me to think about where did the light bulb first go off about the value of mentoring. And to be honest, it brought back a painful memory for me. And back in my college days, and probably as far back as I can remember, I had a passion for being a journalist. And I was on my grade school newspaper, which was called the Pee Wee Post. I was on the town paper. I was editor of my high school paper. I was editor of my college paper. I worked as a stringer nearly full-time for 2 papers while I was going to school. And I wanted to do it on my own. I really felt strongly. I felt like I was on a good path. But my mom encouraged me to call a cousin, because there was a cousin in our family that had a very prominent role in the journalism world. And I was pretty nervous about it. I was pretty reluctant to do it, but I went ahead and did it. And it turned out to be a really disheartening experience, because he was clearly uninterested, detached, and frankly seemed sort of put out that I reached out. And I never forgot that feeling. You know, even though I was, 21 at the time, it really had a big impact on me and just how I thought about things. And I certainly didn't want to feel that way again, and I didn't want anybody that I ever would work with or been around to feel that way. But another more positive experience stuck with me as well. One of my early assignments, for those of you who know me well, I started in the business working on the Ingersoll Rand account. And my first assignment, I think I showed up at a construction site with a 3-piece suit. So it was a rough beginning for me. But one of the things that really I remember vividly was I traveled to a factory in upstate New York with someone that is still a dear friend of mine and certainly has mentored me over the years, who was then the director of corporate communications, Dick Johnson. And Ingersoll Rand had just acquired a company, and one of its factories' fate was certainly in question. It was contentious union negotiations. There was a prospect of moving production overseas. And when we arrived, as you would expect, people were pretty anxious about what was going to happen with their careers, with the plant close. And it was really striking to me how Dick spent so much time, extra time really, and extra care listening to everybody in that facility we came across, from the receptionist to the plant manager, really everybody that we came across. He wanted, it was clear he wanted to understand their concerns, and most of all, wanted to help them navigate what was a very stressful situation. And that was really a great life lesson for me, and he certainly shared many other life lessons over the years, and it's something that I've always carried with me. What Dick showed me then is how emotional intelligence is really the difference maker in so many situations, and it's really what can be what makes business success, especially in the kind of business that we're in. And he inspired me to go out of my way and mentor others and support and advise people around me all through my career. There's so many people that, whether you're starting out, the students we met today, which was just terrific, or people that have been in the business for a while, they're just looking for new opportunity, blue sky, whether it's inside my firm or outside my firm. It's something that I really enjoy spending time with folks in that way. And I think mentorship across Weber Shandwick really, people often ask me, why have we had success? And I think it's really about our culture. There's so many people, great people in this business across so many different firms. But our killer app is really our culture. And mentorship is the foundation for that. And it happens all throughout our organization. And many people, when I talk about the success, I think many people certainly have contributed to that success, to my success. So I just want to just mention a couple of them, if I may. Over the years, there's my long-term business partners, who some of you know, Harris Diamond, Jack Leslie, Gail Hyman, have been with me for many years. I want to acknowledge my wonderful team over there from our Chicago office, who's just tremendous. In particular, Kathy Calhoun, who's someone that I've valued so much over the years. She's our Chief Client Officer, is one of the smartest and best people in our business, and someone I've learned quite a bit from over the years. I really have to also just quickly thank a few people who aren't here, one of which is my assistant. If any of you have ever called my office, you would know that I have an assistant, Carla Messina, who's been with me for, I think, 22 or 23 years. And she's sort of, remember that character in MASH, Radar? Well, some of you won't, but there was a character in the TV show MASH, Radar O'Reilly, and he would know every single thing the colonel was about to say. Not to suggest I'm the colonel or anything, and that's the way she is. She's such a great ambassador for our firm and connects so well with our people and our clients. And just I get so much support from folks at Interpublic, people like Michael Roth and Frank Mergenthaler. And finally, and you know, I think it's hard for me to even, I don't get the opportunity to publicly acknowledge how much my family means to me. But as passionate as I have always been about Weber Shandwick, my family is what's most important in my life. And in particular, I want to give a shout out to my beautiful wife, Maria, over there. We've been married for 27 wonderful years, and have just had so much fun and so many great times together. And then I love this live broadcast thing because I have my two boys, Jason and Steven. Steven's a senior at Lafayette, and Jason is working in the sports marketing business, and hopefully they're sitting at their computers right now because I wanted to just acknowledge how much I love them as well. And I just really appreciate this honor. I can't tell you how much it means to me. I appreciate the Plank Center Board of Advisors thinking I was worthy of such an honor, and just want to thank you all again very much. Thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jacqueline Vargas, and it is an honor to introduce this year's Young Professional Mentor Award to a person who has had such a huge impact in my life. 4 years ago, when I started at California State University, San Bernardino, my goal was simple: to graduate. As a first-generation college student, just simply getting into college was an accomplishment in itself. I was both excited and scared about the journey that I was about to undertake, and I definitely knew that I needed someone to guide me. Then I met Jose Rivera. Perhaps my prayers were answered, or it was just luck, but all I know is that I hit the jackpot. Not only did Jose teach me that public speaking was not as bad as I thought, but he soon began to open my eyes to the endless opportunities that this girl from Little Hinckley, California could benefit from. He talked to me about the importance of internships, having a resume, and developing proper interview skills. He believed in me, which gave me the confidence to believe in myself. Jose told me that it was not going to be easy, but if we worked together, I would be a great candidate for our field one day. Jose was key to the landing of my first internship. He taught me the importance of having a first, second, third, fourth, and even fifth draft of my resume and writing assignments, until it is perfect, he would say. That resume that we worked on for what felt like weeks landed me my first internship. He helped me build on that, and now I am interning with the United States Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. This internship has been a life-changing experience. I have been able to use my knowledge that Jose helped build and have put it into practice in the real world. From writing articles for the USDA newsletter, to creating blog posts for the assistant administrator, developing marketing strategies for diversity and inclusion initiatives, to developing campaigns. I have done it all. I have been fortunate enough to intern for a department where I am constantly learning valuable skills that will help me in my dream of becoming a successful public relations professional. Jose, please know that you made a difference in my life and that you have taught me the importance of helping others. There is no way that I will ever be able to repay what you have done, but one thing that I can assure you is that I will make it my mission to help those students coming up after me. Like you always say, pay it forward, and that is what I will do. Jose's guidance has exposed me to many great opportunities. My worldview, my expectations, my goals are so much more than what I had when I started the university. Are you kidding? I'm living in our nation's capital, the daughter of immigrants. The girl from the place Julia Roberts made famous is living and making a difference in Washington, D.C. None of this would have been possible without Jose's help. This wonderful journey that I am on is because of him, which is why I am honored to present Mr. Jose Rivera with the Planck Center's 2014 Young Professional Mentor Award.
Woo! Excuse me. Yeah, I'm gonna need a second after that. Thank you, Jackie, for such a wonderful introduction. I gotta tell you, it's been such a pleasure watching you grow, and I am so excited to see what the future holds for you, which I know is going to be amazing. I would like to thank the Planck Center for this nomination for the Young Professional Award. I am truly honored to be among such talented people, professionals, students. It's just been an all-around wonderful experience for me. I would like to obviously thank my family, my brother who is here today to support me. I want to thank him for coming out from Texas to come and support me. I would like to thank my parents who immigrated to this country in the early 70s when things were very difficult for an immigrant, as they continue to be today. And they taught me the value of hard work. And they taught me the value of education, even though perhaps they didn't have the means to navigate me through the educational system. And that was something that I had to do on my own, but I understood that I needed to find people to help me do that. It didn't happen right away. So I definitely want to thank my parents for that. And the next person I would like to thank is my wife, because as I mentioned, I didn't start college right away after high school. I actually started college as a 27-year-old. So my wife, when I told her I just started my first course at a junior college, and I kind of don't really have a job right now, she didn't skip a beat. And she stuck with me, and she has been very supportive, so I definitely want to thank you. If she's been sitting in front of her laptop, like many other family members are today, watching, because she is 9 months pregnant and she couldn't travel today. So, yes, thank you. Thank you. And let me say to you all that mentorship is my passion. I love mentoring students. I love watching students' worldview open up. I come from a university that has a very special population, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Hispanic community. My university has a 56% Hispanic population. Many of those students are public relations students. And I feel that no other field is best positioned to assist in moving this community forward in terms of professional connections, in terms of networking, in terms of mentorship. This community is in dire need of that. And many times we hear that this is a Hispanic problem, that this is an immigrant problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that this is an American problem. And no one is better positioned than us, than the field of public relations, because we understand our publics, we research our publics, we build rapport with our publics, and no one, like I said, once again, understands them better than we do, okay? So therefore, I lay the challenge upon all of you here. I am here to make help in any way that I can. If you want to reach out to me and see how we can help solve this problem, because that's what we do. Okay, so let's honor Betsy Plank's legacy in mentoring and take on this challenge of a community that's going to move our country forward. Thank you so much.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Neil Hirsch. I'm a corporate communicator, PRSA Georgia president, a huge beneficiary of mentor relationships, and an even bigger advocate for mentoring. But perhaps most proud this evening to be a former student, mentee, and friend of Dr. Lynne Sallot, APR, fellow PRSA, this year's Bruce K. Berger Educator Award winner. Lynne's bio is an impressive one. So I did some math the other day. She's been teaching public relations for more than 25 years. If she teaches roughly 125 students per year in undergraduate and graduate courses, that means she's had more than 3,500 students sit in her classroom since 1987. So beyond her impressive research and commitment to advancing the profession, she's touched a lot of lives. My 15-year friendship with Lynne began in earnest when I was a junior PR major at Grady College at the University of Georgia. I certainly had direction, but I was feeling a little lost, like I was just a number in a huge university system. I was concerned I might never find my home as a student. That changed when I met Lynne. She was probably the toughest teacher I ever had at UGA. Her expectations of her students were incredibly high. But her commitment to her students was even higher. However, what I learned from Lynne in the classroom was only one small fragment of the lessons that she's taught me over the years. To this day, Lynne's an advisor, career counselor, therapist, connector, cheerleader, and advocate. In fact, this morning, we flew here together from Atlanta. I sat down, we were exchanging pleasantries, and within about 90 seconds, she wants to know how's work, how's career, what's next, what's happening, and we had a good chat. So, to say the least, I'm an official card-carrying member of the Lynne Sallot fan club. But you don't have to take just my word for it. I did a little bit of research, as she would be very proud of me for doing. A former doctoral student and current colleague at Grady calls Lynne the perfect professor who taught her the depths of public relations theory and how to trust herself as a teacher. But perhaps the most important gift Lynne gave her was confidence in her ability to transition from student to faculty seamlessly. Lynne's department chair says she's tough, thorough, and has the highest standards. She makes him want to be a better teacher. A former master's thesis student of Lynne's said she was incredibly supportive and determined to see her flourish through very challenging times, and that coming to her class was like going to work. Many companies, agencies, and organizations across the globe are reaping the fruits of Lynne's efforts because, after all, they've hired her students. And finally, a former undergraduate student says that Lynne is the reason she's a PR pro today. Until she entered her classroom, she was a magazines major. That was until she experienced Lynne's passion for this thing that we call PR. She changed her major that very day and continues to emulate Lynne's commitment to advancing the profession through mentoring young professionals and students. When Lynne asked me if I would be here this evening to introduce her, I was incredibly touched. I'm one of 3,500 people she could have asked, at least. So Lynne, thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. But really, I represent all the people who've benefited from your generosity, insight, and compassion over the years. I'm part of a special society of Lynne's mentees out there in the world who are better off because of our membership in this ever-growing group. So, congratulations on this much-deserved honor, Lynne.
Thank you so much, Neil. I guess everybody can see why I invited him to introduce me. Neil, not only do you do your company proud, the Grady College at the University of Georgia proud, the Georgia chapter of PRSA proud, but you really knocked it out of the ballpark tonight for me. Thank you so much. It is such a great honor to receive this award. First of all, I want to thank the Planck Center and the board. I want to thank my colleagues, Dr. Brian Reber, who sits on the board, and Dren Meng, who came from Athens, Georgia, to be with us tonight. I want to thank my professional friends who are here tonight, Mickey Nall and Gary McCormick. And I want to say that getting this award following Judy Turk is kind of a tough act to follow. I also want to say that Dean Cully Clark, who was just retired from the Grady College a few years ago, was the first one to receive this award. So I want to also thank Cully for the opportunity to follow in his footsteps. Any award that has the name of Bruce Berger attached to it is a very great honor for an educator indeed. So thank you so much, Bruce, for your legacy and everything that you have done to advance public relations education. Most of all, I want to thank Betsy Planck. I not only had the opportunity to know Betsy, but I had the privilege of being mentored by Betsy. I met Betsy when I started advising PRSSA chapters at the University of Florida when I was a PhD student, and then in 1993 when I joined the faculty at the University of Georgia. And I was encouraged by Betsy to get more involved with education at a national level through PRSA. So I got to serve with Betsy on the Educational Affairs Committee, and she also helped me with a couple of sticky points when I was editing the second and third editions of Learning to Teach that Judy Turk actually edited the first edition. So I was forever grateful to Betsy for being such a great mentor to me and to so many other people. I think where Betsy and I really met, though, was that for Betsy, it was always all about the students. And I try real hard to live up to that, too. So for me, it's all about the students. And I just want to say thank you to Betsy Planck. She just keeps on giving to all of us. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Brett Galloway, and I have the honor of sharing a few stories with you about the lessons I learned about caring, sharing, and daring leadership from Wendi Strong, who I worked for 8 years at USAA. About 5 years ago, after hosting a big press conference, Wendi asked for feedback. She loves feedback. She can't get enough. And I told her she was great, and she was really brilliant. But Wendi knew I was holding something back. She knew there was some criticism that I really didn't feel comfortable giving. So she pushed me until I gave it to her. Finally, I said, well, Wendi, your hair was in your face. Now, show of hands, how many men have good luck with that advice? But a few weeks later, well, actually, right directly after that, she looked at me right in the eye, and she kind of cocked her head and said, wow, thank you very much. And a few weeks later, she followed up after another event, and she said, did you notice that I pulled my hair back? And I thought, well, that's pretty humble, and that's pretty cool that she came back and, to me, followed up to demonstrate to me that she was listening. And that's Wendi. So caring leadership. In addition to being Mentor of the Year, Wendi could be Mother of the Year, she could be Friend of the Year, Citizen of the Year. She is so thoughtful and loving and a wonderful person to work with and work for. So committed to family, hers and others. One time she asked me what I was giving my wife for Christmas. And I said, well, I don't know. Sue wants an iPhone or she wants a Coach purse. And I asked Wendi for her advice on which one to give. And it was the only order Wendi ever gave me directly. She said, "You will not give her one or the other, will you give her both?" And I did. And finally, daring. One day, Wendi learned that an executive title review at our organization would result in a demotion for some of her team, including me. That was a surprise for her. It was a surprise for all of us. She had not been part of the process, and she was on fire, understandably so. A few weeks later, our CEO left the organization. And Wendi's first order of business with the new CEO was to restore our titles. Now imagine that. Of all the priorities you have with your new CEO as the Chief Communications Officer, your first priority was to restore the titles of your team. We all got our titles back. It was a really gutsy move, and I obviously still remember it to this day. I left USAA 2 years ago, and people say you don't leave your job, you leave your boss, and I promise you that is far from the truth. I did not leave my old job because of Wendi Strong. I got my new job because of Wendi Strong and all that I learned from her. So ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud to present to you our 2014 Planck Center Corporate Mentor Awardee, my friend, advisor, cheerleader, and mentor, Wendi Strong.
Oh my gosh. You know, I had a speech written for tonight, and I thought it was going to be fine until I learned earlier this evening that the award that I was going to be given was to be named after Jack Coton. I cannot tell you how humbled I am by that. And I cannot tell you how humbled I am to stand in front of this group of the giants in our profession. I mean, one of the real privileges we have at this point in the development of the field of PR is that the people who created our profession, the people who founded our associations, the people who wrote our textbooks, and the people who taught us everything we know are still with us, many of them, and many of them are here in the room with us tonight. So how lucky are we? We truly stand on the shoulders of those who come before us, and I am definitely doing that tonight. I did not know Jack Coton, and I know a lot of you here did. So, but I wanted to do my best, and so I hope you'll bear with me to do credit to Jack Coton, one of the real greats, one of the most impressive, committed people to our who has ever been in this profession. So I hope you'll bear with me. I've learned a lot about him tonight, just in this short time that I was aware that this award was going to be named after him. And I think it's very fitting that this mentorship award is actually named after him, since he was a mentor to so many, probably many of you in this room, and he was a mentor to Betsy Planck. I do remember when Jack died earlier this year. I remember the reaction of his friends and colleagues who so clearly loved him dearly, who respected him, and marked his passing with the kind of grief that follows the loss of a truly great man. All of you know that he was one of the founders of the Page Society, which is really all about mentoring each other and mentoring new CCOs. And that was an organization that I joined when I first came into my leadership role, and that helped me with so much of what I was challenged with as a new leader. And many of you who are in this room are part of that organization, and all of you have mentored me in one way or another. Jack was probably the spiritual father of corporate responsibility in America. I know he was very committed to philanthropy and especially to the arts. And he really put forward the idea that corporations were obligated to do societal good, something that was a new idea in the 1960s, 70s, something that we take for granted today. So in seeking to learn about Jack Coton tonight, I went and talked with his children, Sarah and Mark Coton, who are here with us tonight. And I have to tell you that any of us who are parents would want nothing more than to hear our children talk about us in the terms that they talk about their father. He was loving, he was always positive, and he sounds like the greatest people person who ever walked the face of the earth. He believed that people could do anything, and that's really what this program is about tonight, helping others feel that they can do anything. And he was an advocate for everyone. They confessed to me that they didn't really know what he did, because when he came home from work at night and they asked about his day, he started with, "Well, let me tell you who I had lunch with today." And he would start talking about someone, Roger Bolton, Ron Culp, one of his colleagues, one of his friends, and he talked about these people that he had contact with during the course of the day and how impressed he was with them and how much he learned from them and how he admired them. And he brought those lessons back into their home. One of the things that Mark and Sarah told me was that he would be so proud of the fact that this award was being named after him, and he would be so happy to know that this group of people were together tonight and thinking about him, because they said, these are his people. We are his people. Jack was also a champion for women in our profession, as I understand. So that makes it extra special for me to be able to accept this award tonight. And I see Ann Barclay nodding. I'm deeply humbled. I'm honored to receive this award in Jack Felton's name, and on behalf of all the professionals who have benefited from his extraordinary life. So I want to say thank you to the Planck Center Board. Thank you to my team, past and present, who are here with me tonight. Most of all, thank you to all the people in this room who have mentored me, coached me, taught me, and inspired me. So in memory of Jack, I would ask that we all redouble our efforts to serve others, to remember that it's important that we think everyone who comes across our path can do anything, and that we convey that to them, that we inspire people, that we motivate people, that we lead people, and that we love people. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Lori Hawhey, and I work for Potbelly Sandwich Shops, based out of here in Chicago, Illinois. And I have the pleasure tonight to introduce Aylwin Lewis, our CEO and president of Potbelly. Aylwin, every Monday morning, without fail, one of the first emails in everybody's inbox in the Potbelly Nation is an email with an inspirational quote attached. These quotes are very purposeful. They're selected with passion. There's always a theme for the month. And everybody in the Potbelly Nation gets this quote. And they are passed on. These quotes are appreciated and they are shared. But this is our fearless leader to start our week off. The entire Potbelly Nation has this quote. And it drives them, it sets the stage, and we are ready to march forward and have the best week of making the best sandwiches in the country. I was recently at a strategic meeting with Aylwin, And he shared with the group of individuals that were in this room that his favorite role is coaching, and he is motivated by helping other individuals. And this is so apparent in Aylwin's daily actions and his future planning. He is so thoughtful and purposeful with every move he makes, but he is truly motivated by watching and seeing other people succeed. So I was one of the very lucky individuals that was selected to be in the 2013 mentorship program, and Aylwin was my mentor. Very early in the year, we had the entire schedule planned out to the day, what hour it was going to be. It was calendarized perfectly. The beautiful part was the first half of the year, the agenda was also set. And Aylwin, again, very purposefully and strategically selected the topics that he knew would best drive my career with Potbelly. He knew what I would probably get the most out of, where my opportunities lied. It was perfect. And I said, what happens the second half of the year? And he goes, well, that's for you to decide. You choose the topics. So I had the opportunity to tap into Aylwin's mind and his brain and go, what intrigues me? What are areas that I know I really need to expand my knowledge base on? And he really built this mentorship program around something that he knew would drive my career, whether it's with Potbelly and beyond. Because again, he really wants nothing more than to see people succeed. The number of mentees he has, again, somebody counted earlier, it's countless. There are so many mentees that Aylwin has, and right now, with the thousands of employees at Potbelly, he is a mentor to every one of us. So at the end of the session of 2013, he says, so Lori, what were your takeaways? Tell me, what was it that you really got out of this session this year? And we had some very, very powerful sessions together. And after I recapped, he looked at me, and his final words to me as my formal mentor, because he will always be my mentor, he goes, Lori, I will always be a resource to you. He goes, I will always be a resource. So I have one of the most valuable resources in Aylwin Lewis. Many people would say that your most valuable resource is the value of its time. It is your most valuable resource. So Aylwin, I thank you for your gift of time to me, to mentor me, to make me the best person I can be, professionally and personally. And I am so proud to honor you tonight with the Executive Award this evening.
So nice. It's always interesting when you hear people talk about you nicely. Who is that person? I want to thank Ron and fellow board members, Plank Center. I'm not a PR executive or expert. I'm just a sandwich maker, and I'm fortunate to be at the top of a great company called Potbelly. We're local here. Appreciate Lori. You know, part of the job of a leader to me is to go out and identify leaders. I can still remember the first day I met Lori. She was in our Lincolnshire store. And we had hired her to be a multi-unit supervisor, but we put everybody new through the paces, and she had to run the shop for about 90 days. And I just remember her smile when I walked in. And she walked up to me and big smile, shook my hand, and said, you know, I'm here to do a great job for you. And we got a chance to bring her into the corporate office. And smart, passion, could take really good coaching well, could take constructive stuff really well. It's like, well, this lady can do a lot more for us. How can I help her? That is a prime motivation. I want to thank Nancy Turk for being here. She's our Chief People Officer. But, you know, success in businesses like mine is predicated on people. People who come from different walks of life, have different reasons for being with you. But to me, people deserve coaching. They deserve opportunity. And they deserve involvement. In my career, I had 4 great mentors. at different times in my career. My first mentor was, I was working for a company called Jack in the Box, and at the top of the organization was a guy named Bob Nugent. And what I learned from Bob was the power of spending individual time with people that doesn't report into you. I was a lowly district manager running 8 restaurants in Houston, Texas. I got a chance to spend time with Bob on a company orientation, and what was supposed to be 30 minutes turned into 3 hours. We're getting ready to roll out a new management by objective program. It actually showed me his objectives and how it worked. And just the memory of that time, spending with a guy that, and we became longtime friends. Kyle Craig, when I went to KFC USA, taught me that you could be nice and be at the top of the organization, that your values could stay intact, that you can be a genuinely nice person and you could win. Probably the biggest influence in my career was David Novak, who's CEO of Yum. Got a chance to work for David for about 10 years. Power there was to bring your whole self to work. Before David, I was very compartmentalized. You would say I was Spock at work because I didn't show emotions, because I didn't want to be vulnerable. And David was just like, no, you got to bring your whole self to work. People want to see leaders that they know you're human. And there's a safety zone here, that it won't be used against you. And the last person is Andy Pearson, who was our founding chairman when we got spun off from PepsiCo. Andy was the smartest person I've ever met. But, and Andy was old school. And we did 360s, and after the first year, Andy as chairman got his 360. It was awful because Andy was old school, and I was in one meeting I was in, and we were doing a business review, and he looked at the management team. I was at Pizza at the time, and he said, you know, a bunch of monkeys could do better than you guys. And you're like, wow. But he got his 360, and Andy was early 70s, and the 360 was brutal. You don't fit the culture, you're rude, you're crude. Why are you the chairman? And he went public to the whole company that says, I apologize, and I will do better. And at that age, he didn't have to. He had run PepsiCo, he had taught at Harvard Business School, he had been at Clayton Dublier. And the notion that you'd be willing to change and communicate that to a whole company broadly was just very impressive. It says you never stop learning, you can always take constructive, and you can always get better. My motivation in my career is, how do you help others? Because I don't take a lot of credit for where I am or what I've accomplished. I'm the composite of almost every good person I've met. I've been fortunate and smart enough to work hard and to listen and to learn. I think leadership is a privilege, and I think the way you continue to earn that privilege to lead is to give back. As you learn, how can you help others learn? For me, the mentorship that we do is a process, and Lori described it very well. I tend to start off beginning of the year with several mentees, and it's what do you want to get out of it, and we do have frequency of meetings, and my own requirement is you got to show up and be prepared to kind of do the work, and I'll meet you more than halfway. All I can say is that I'm very proud to get this award. I'm very humbled by it. It's very important to me. I'm in the dream business. If I can help the company reach their dreams and help the folks that work for us reach their dreams, that's a real win for me. I also believe that you don't have the right to say no when you're at the top of the organization leading. Someone asks for help, someone asks you to mentor them, you don't have the right to say no. You are required, you are compelled to help others. It's a belief, and that's what I want to do. So I'll try to live up to this award. I really appreciate it. It means a lot in my home city, city where our business is, and thank you very much.
I promise I will have you out of here before the first pitch of the next World Series. By the way, I have the most important task of the evening. We are trying to save money. Please put these on the back table when you leave. I was given that email about 6 o'clock this morning, and it's been gnawing at me that I might forget it. May I also ask Sarah and Mark Coton to just stand, since we recognized Jack's important work, Jack as the first chairman of the Planck Center Board. So could you guys just stand so everybody knows who you are, please? I don't know why every year I get so a little choked up, but also just amazed about, you know, I'm from New York. You can't talk in front of a room in New York and have this level of silence. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. The success of tonight's event will provide scholarships and funding for research through the Planck Center for Leadership and Public Relations. And also the result of the fundraising we did for this year means that the Milestones and Mentoring Dinner has raised over $250,000 in its 5 years in existence, which I think you all deserve a round of applause for that. I want to congratulate Wendi, Pat, Andy, Lynn, Jose, and Aylwin for their awards. There's no more important work than what you do in providing leadership and providing mentorship to others. And I've said this before in this forum to the people in the room, especially the young people in the room that are here as students trying to learn a bit about leadership and mentorship in our profession. If you're under the age of 93, you can learn something from the person that's sitting next to you. If you are over the age of 93, we are truly humbled and honored by your presence here tonight. I want to pay special thanks to the team that put this evening together: Lisa Gill, Jessica White, our director, Carla Gower, and my mentor and good friend and the first director of the Planck Center, Dr. Bruce Berger. My good friend in the front row here, Kathy Beiser, is home. Chicago's home. She now lives in Washington. But there's something extraordinary about this community. And even though this is a national organization and a national award, I want to thank the Chicago Public Relations community for embracing the Planck Center to the extent it has. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is just mention, and this will be the last thing, second to last thing, is that the dinner will be held next year, the fourth Thursday of the month of October, which happens to be October 29th. We've cleared that with PRSA, author page, everything we had to do, so we're all set. And then I have to thank my two co-chairmen, co-chairman Ron Culp and Keith Burton. We have just this wonderful brotherhood when we put this thing together. It's an absolute labor of love. You make that all possible. I will tell you, though, one small thing that I hadn't told them. We try to make all the decisions as a team. One decision that we didn't make as a team, and I want to publicly apologize to both of them for this. When Pat Ford found out that he was going to be getting this award, one of the first calls he made was to Harold Burson. Now, as you've noticed tonight, everybody that came up here that got an award was introduced by a protege or mentee. But Pat called Harold, and Harold immediately called me and said, would it be okay if I introduced Pat? I didn't confer with them, so I apologize. Thank you all for being here tonight, for supporting the Planck Center. We look forward to seeing you next year. Don't forget these.